It's a strange thing. We spend our entire lives running away from the one person we can never truly escape, ourselves. We fill every quiet moment with noise, every empty space with distractions, and our calendars with people who have no idea who we are once the show is over.
But have you ever just stopped for a second and asked, why? I mean, why does the world seem so desperate to keep you busy, to keep you distracted and entertained 24/7? What is it we're all being kept from?
Well, it's because in the silence, that's when the masks we wear for everyone else finally come off. And in that quiet space, in real solitude, the truth starts to talk. So today, we are diving deep into maybe the most misunderstood power we have, the art of being alone.
Now, for most of us, being alone is a problem, right? It's this disease we need to cure. We get anxious in an empty room or when our phone isn't buzzing. But what if we've been taught to fear our single greatest source of strength? It's time to reframe this whole idea.
And this is the absolute core of it. On one side, you have loneliness, and that feels like a punishment. It feels like victimhood. But on the other side, you have solitude, and that's not a punishment at all. It's a privilege. It's the moment you stop being a victim of your life and start becoming the architect of it.
This idea was championed by, of all people, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Think about it, a guy running an empire, fighting wars, and yet he would retreat into what he called the inner citadel. Now, this isn't a castle made of stone. It's a fortress of self-mastery. It's an inner space that no person, no chaos, no external force can ever break into unless you give them the key.
And that brings us to a really crucial, kind of tough point. If you fear being alone, it's basically an admission that your inner citadel is empty. The reason you can't stand the quiet is because you don't like the person you're left with when everyone else is gone. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's where the real work begins.
And this isn't just some abstract philosophy. It's the bedrock of genius. Nikola Tesla said it perfectly. You see, in isolation, your whole way of thinking changes. You stop trying to justify yourself to other people, and you start connecting with who you really are. It's why so many high achievers are actually pretty solitary, not because they're outcasts, but because they've stopped needing applause from the crowd. So, okay, if solitude is so powerful, then why is it so incredibly hard to find? Well, it's because there are massive forces actively working against you. You have to understand we are in a war for our attention. So, welcome to the modern prison. This prison, it doesn't have any bars, and you carry it around in your pocket. The guards aren't people, they're algorithms. And their one and only job is to make sure you never, ever have to face the silence. I mean, just think about the mechanics of this prison. Every single scroll is a tiny little dopamine hit, a chemical reward to keep you hooked. Every notification that dings on your phone, that's a guard's command, snapping your attention right back to the screen and pulling you away from your own thoughts. So what's the real reason for all this? Why is it designed this way? It's brutally simple, really. Silence is the enemy of consumption, because if you stop distracting yourself, you start thinking. And a person who genuinely thinks for themselves becomes very, very difficult to control, to predict, and to sell things to. The end result of all this is that we become broken mirrors. We lose our own solid sense of self. Instead, we try to stitch together an ego from all these tiny, fractured pieces of validation, likes, comments, and shares from people we don't even know. And you're left more connected online than ever, but more isolated in your own life.
Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a big one. It's a war for your mind, and the prize is your own cognitive freedom. But you can fight back. This next part is your toolkit. These are the practical steps you can take to fortify your own inner citadel.
The whole toolkit for taking back your freedom really comes down to 3 keys. So let's break them down, one by one.
All right, these are the 3 keys to building your fortress. First up, the silent hour. That's 60 minutes every single day with 0 devices. The goal here isn't to be bored. It's to create enough space for your real thoughts to finally come to the surface. Second, the dialogue with the self. Think of this as journaling, but not just about your day. It's more like a technical audit for your soul, a time to ask yourself the hard questions you've been putting off. And third, the walk of nothingness. You just go for a walk. No goal, no destination, no music, no podcasts. Your only job is to watch the world go by and notice where your mind wanders when it's finally set free.
When you start to actually practice these keys, you begin laying the bricks of that inner fortress. And that leads us to the final and most crucial part, the payoff. What is the ultimate reward for mastering this art of being alone?
First, let's get clear on what solitude is not. It is not some dark, empty void. It is not a black hole that you fall into when life gets hard.
No, it's a launch pad. It is the solid ground from which you can launch yourself higher than you ever thought possible, fueled by your own validation, your own ideas, and your own unshakable strength.
And really, this is the ultimate freedom. If you can be genuinely happy in your own company, with your own thoughts, you will never be a slave to anyone else's opinion, anyone else's approval, or anyone else's control. That is real power.
So let's end on this quiet note. If this really resonated with you, just leave a single period, a dot in the comments below. Consider it a silent acknowledgement among those of us who get it.
Hey, welcome. You know, in an age where we're always connected, constantly bombarded with noise, it feels like we've kind of lost one of our most basic human skills, the art of just being alone. So today we're going to dive into why that is and how reclaiming solitude might just be the key to reclaiming our own minds. So let's just get right to it. Why has being alone become so terrifying? Why does silence almost feel like a punishment these days? Well, the answer isn't some personal failing. Nope, it's actually by design. A design we carry around with us in our pockets every single day. And that design has a name. A pretty powerful one, actually. The source material for this calls it the modern prison. It's a jail, but there are no bars, and you'll never see the guards' faces. See, this isn't just about being distracted by a funny video here and there. It's a whole system. The algorithms on our devices, they're basically the prison guards. And every notification, every endless scroll is like a little dopamine hit, engineered with one purpose, to make sure you never, ever have to be alone with your own thoughts. So why? Why is silence so dangerous to this system? It's simple, really. Silence is the enemy of consumption. When you're always engaged, always swiping, always watching, you're the perfect consumer. Silence breaks that spell. Because when you finally stop distracting yourself, you actually start thinking. And, well, when you really think for yourself, you become a whole lot more difficult to control. That right there, that's the core mechanism of the modern prison. Of course, constantly running away from ourselves like this has a huge psychological cost. When we can't be alone, we start desperately searching for our reflection in other people. This leads to this fascinating and kind of sad phenomenon, becoming broken mirrors. Just think about that phrase for a second, broken mirrors. It means we're not seeing a whole, true reflection of who we are. Instead, we're just collecting these tiny, fractured little pieces of validation. A like here, a comment there, mostly from total strangers. And we try to stitch all those fragments together to build an ego. As you can imagine, it's an incredibly fragile way to build a sense of self. And this creates this massive paradox in our lives. Online, we've got this perfectly curated identity. We've got thousands of friends and this feeling of constant connection. But then offline, in the real world, it can lead to this profound sense of isolation and emptiness. It's like we have endless connections, but we've completely failed to connect with the one person who matters most, ourselves. This whole struggle, it isn't just a personal problem. It's the central battlefield of what people are now calling the attention war. And the prize they're fighting for isn't just your time or your clicks. The real prize is your cognitive freedom, your very ability to think for yourself. But okay, this isn't a story about doom and gloom, not at all. There is a way to fight back. It involves reclaiming solitude, not as some kind of weakness, but as a genuine strength. It's about building what the ancient Stoics used to call an inner citadel. Now, this idea comes from one of the most powerful men in history, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Think about it. This guy was dealing with wars, plagues, constant chaos, and yet he learned to retreat into this mental fortress. It's a space you build inside your own mind, a space made of self-mastery that no external chaos can ever touch. And why do this? So you can stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your own destiny. This one distinction, it's everything. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. Solitude is the power of being alone. You see the difference? One feels like a punishment, the other is an absolute privilege. And hey, it wasn't just ancient emperors. Brilliant innovators like Nikola Tesla knew this too. They understood that in solitude, your mind gets sharper. You stop trying to fit in and you start to actually hear your own original ideas. Solitude is where the real breakthroughs are born.
Okay, so this all sounds great, right? But how do we actually do it? How do we build this fortress when the whole world is basically designed to tear it down? All right, let's get practical. Here are 3 keys to freedom.
Okay, here they are. Number 1, the silent hour. That means 60 minutes every day with 0 devices, no music, not even a book, just you and your thoughts. Now, fair warning, it will be painful at first. Your mind is going to scream for distraction, but if you can push through, your real thoughts will start to bubble up. Number 2, documentation. Don't just think, write it down. Journaling becomes like a technical audit for your soul. And third, walk alone. No headphones, no destination in mind, just walk and observe the world.
Now, that second step, documentation, is absolutely crucial. This is not your Dear Diary stuff, okay? This is about performing a real technical audit on your soul. You have to be willing to ask those tough questions you've been avoiding. When you write down the answers, something amazing happens. You kind of detach from the emotions, and you become an observer of your own life.
So after all this work, after breaking free and building this inner fortress, what's the end game? What's the ultimate prize for all this effort? It's something called cognitive autonomy. And this is the final, most important shift in perspective. We're taught to fear solitude like it's this black hole you're going to fall into. But the truth is, it's a launch pad. It's the solid ground you stand on that allows you to fly higher than you ever thought possible. And listen, don't be afraid if this path feels a little lonely sometimes. The journey towards true self-mastery is, by its very nature, a solo mission. Remember, the highest peaks are always the loneliest. And that's not a tragedy, it's a testament to the hard work it took to get there. And that brings us to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. Your ability to think for yourself, to choose where you put your attention, your cognitive autonomy is the single most precious asset you will ever possess. Don't trade it away for anything. Now for something a little different. If any of this resonated with you today, if you've ever felt that power that comes from silence, don't write a big, long comment. Instead, just leave a single dot. Think of it as a silent acknowledgement, a quiet nod between all of us who get it.
Thanks for spending some time with me today. Make sure you subscribe to keep this archive of ideas open. Until our next deep dive, remember what we talked about today. Stay silent and stay wise.